It's time to look at the report card. It's Grayson's Grades, brought to you by Cross County Connection, the region's Transportation Management Association. They've become dedicated to improving the quality of life in South Jersey through transportation solutions. Learn more about Cross County Connection at driveless.com. Scott Grayson hands out the grades at 97.3 ESPN.com. Check them out. Grayson's grades are posted. Get the full list of grades at 97.3 ESPN.com. And let's bring in Scott Grayson from 97.3 ESPN.com and Fox 29 as he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline with another edition of Grayson's Grades. Scott, how you, man?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. How about you, Mike?
We're doing good. Let's get to the report card because I think there's some controversial grades here once again. I know one that Hunter Brody might take issue with. You gave Carson Wentz a D in the game. Now, Hunter thought he played really well. I said he was good, not great. You gave him below average.
Well, I'm getting tired of the look. There's home run balls that he's missing repeatedly. You know, and I look, I put in here, I really feel like Carson is one of the toughest guys to grade week to week. The guy has none of his top talent at receiver. He continues to go week to week, missing more and more of his offensive line. And it's like, well, okay, so how do you grade the guy? I mean, you know, he is moving the ball down the field. They did put up points, but I see these balls to John Hightower yesterday that they're there, and he's just not connecting on them with them. And those back-breaking plays if he can connect with them. And it's like, okay, well, you know, throwing the deep ball was supposed to be one of his strengths, and they're just not connecting on him. And so I'm getting irritated with that from Wentz. The turnovers continue to mount. That continues to be frustrating. We've talked about holding the ball too long that results in some sacks, and that negative yardage just really, it just kills drives sometimes. So, I mean, there's things that Carson's doing, and what he and Fulgham have developed in terms of chemistry is awesome and amazing and fun to watch. But there's things that he's doing, too, that still make you pull your hair out. And that's what I'm starting to kind of be like, look, you're in year 5 here. These are mistakes that shouldn't be happening. So that's where I'm kind of at with Carson. But I admit he's a tough guy to grade just because, you know, in terms of grading anybody on a curve, he's probably one of the ones more than anybody else. You kind of have to sit there and go, well, yeah, but this, but that, but that, but that. But despite all that, it's still a loss.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with any of the points. I'm a little bit more optimistic on Carson Wentz than you were after the performance and Gil as well. You know, like some of those, you're right. There are so many factors involved. The way I look at it is, though, like they scored 29 points. And realistically, that should win you the game. Like I thought Carson Wentz did enough to win you that game with a lot of weapons being out, with an offensive line where you can't even establish the run in that game at all. So you're a one-dimensional team, and he was still making plays out there. And that's where I kind of lean towards. And maybe Gil's right. Gil goes, my expectations have changed so much that now I'm satisfied with this. And maybe that's true. But I do see week after week there seems to be more improvement each week, and that's why I'm more optimistic than maybe some.
Well, you look at Wentz, and you talked about the run game. Like, I don't pin that on Carson not having a run game. Obviously, that's not on him. And that's one of the things I knocked Doug for. I just feel like Peterson is so quick to abandon the run game sometimes that it just becomes then very predictable. And I think he makes Carson Wentz's job much harder. And that's another aspect of things you could even argue in terms of grading Carson on a curve. When the defense knows it's going to be a pass, it makes his job that much harder. And it's just 16 run plays. And, you know, you take the one out that Miles broke, and they got 15 yards or something like that total. It's just ridiculous. And they've got to find better ways to be able to move the ball. Look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh knew they were going to have trouble running the ball. So what did they do? They ran the perimeter with end arounds, and they loosened up the Eagles defense that way. You know, you got to stop being predictable. You got to stop being easy to figure out. And then when they are making the Eagles one-dimensional, it just makes it so much easier on that defense and harder on Carson to get things done.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say he played a C, maybe C+. I understand why. Look, I don't have a problem with people being tough on the quarterback. I think the quarterback deserves most of the criticism. I thought he played a good game, not a great game. And I thought there was greatness to be had. There were plays that he missed. He was 20 of 35. That's not good. But he did play much better but still, I expect more from Carson, I guess. That's where I'm at with him. So I don't mind your D. I thought it was tough, which you have been criticized for not being tough enough on him. This week you were tough on him. Zach Ertz, F. Zach Ertz, F. Now, Doug talked about that today, and he insinuated that Wentz missed him a couple times, that Ertz was open and Wentz missed him. But overall, Ertz doesn't look the same. You gave him an F.
Yeah, and here's why I think Ertz doesn't look. And I kind of tried to put this in here, but I felt like I had. Look, one catch is not going to get it done. If Zach Ertz has one catch, this team is not going to win very many games. And I know, look, they're a different team, and he's a different when you have a Dallas Goedert on the other side, when you have an Alshon Jeffrey and a Deshaun Jackson healthy. He certainly then there's a lot more opportunities for him. These teams are taking him away. And and again, he's another one that I thought was tough to grade, but in the end, I kept saying to myself, one catch on 6 targets. It's not good enough. And he and Carson were almost inseparable in the past, where it was like they were thinking with the same brain. And now they just look totally lost together. And I think some of it, for whatever reason, I think teams are taking Ertz away and saying, go ahead and beat us with somebody else. And now they're going to have to respect Fulgham and pay attention to Travis Fulgham. But at this point, there's nothing that over the middle that is going to cause teams to allow Ertz to start having opportunities. And I think frustration is going to set in. And for me, it's like, look, Ertz has to find a way to catch more passes. And you're right. I agree with Doug's sentiment that perhaps there were some more opportunities for Wentz to hit Ertz. I think Wentz at times was trying to just look for that big play downfield when he could have had some things underneath. And I like taking the shots downfield, but you've got to be able to get your best receiver is Zach Ertz on the field right now. You have to be able to get him more involved than one reception. And I think that blame goes on both Wentz and Ertz, and perhaps to an extent Peterson as well.
Sticking with your F grades, Jim Schwartz, he's definitely been getting a lot of the heat this morning, and you also threw Nate Gary in there. So tell us about why you gave both of them an F.
Well, I'll start with Nate Gary because, that ship has been sinking for me the last few weeks. I've been on the Nate Gary F train for a while, and it's not so much that I'm saying the guy can't play. I think he can play. I just think he can't cover. And my problem is he continues to be put in positions where you see him have to cover somebody. Credit to Pittsburgh. When they needed a play, they found a way to get Claypool matched up with Nate Gary. They are going to win that battle every time they run that play. And the Eagles didn't make any adjustments. Schwartz does not get Gary any help. And, look, I'm going to play it again. Let's play it forward. Now they're going to play Baltimore this week with Mark Andrews at tight end. He is a decent, one of the better tight ends in the league. And I would not be surprised if he goes off and has a big game because Schwartz doesn't make adjustments, and Nate Gary will again be tasked with trying to go downfield with him. I'm tired of Schwartz's inability to adjust to the way things are going. It was obvious that Pittsburgh was going to make Claypool the feature of that game plan as that game unfolded. And as he continued to become more and more of a factor and Roethlisberger was getting more and more comfortable with him, it amazes me that there wasn't more done to try to be able to do something, and that your solution is to have Claypool over the middle with Gary to try to come down and that touchdown broke everything. And it just took everything else away. That ended the game. And I just can't stand seeing the failure, honestly, from both Schwartz and Peterson. They both have shown the inability to adjust in game. And it's really costing this team, I think, because they just continue to try to do the same things. Like I said about Peterson, they became predictable. Schwartz counts so much on getting pressure on the quarterback that if it's not there, these quarterbacks, they're good. They know what they're doing. They're going to pick your defense apart. And now you look at Lamar Jackson next week. How are you going to get pressure on him? He's so mobile that they're going to have to do other things. And these guys are going to have to be disciplined on defense to be able to stay in their spots and hold their zones and their rush responsibilities so that he doesn't double back with his speed and agility and break something open. I like Schwartz. I do. I'm tired of the lack of adjustments. And when things aren't there with the pass rush, this defense falls apart. 38 points. That's uncalled for and should not happen against Pittsburgh.
Scott Grayson has Grayson's grades. He's at S. Grayson, Fox 29. You can check him out on Fox 29. And, of course, Grayson's grades at 97.3 ESPN.com. Let's finish up with an A. Travis Fulgham, in 2 games, he already has more catches than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside had all of last year. He almost has more targets in 2 games than J.J. has in his entire Eagles career. So I guess the question is, you gave him an A. Obviously, he earned an A. The question is, can he really play? I mean, is this a guy that they just kind of maybe found that they backed into? Can Travis Fulgham play?
You know what? I think he can. There's a lot of – he's made some very difficult catches, ones that we can all say Nelson Aguilar would have dropped. And you look at what Fulgham is doing, and I think the guy's competing. He's gaining the confidence of his quarterback, and to me that says more than anything else. When Wentz is clearly having interception problems. When Wentz is going to throw him the ball in some spots where he's got to make some tough catches and he can pull them in, that is telling me more than maybe anything else. And it says that Wentz is seeing things in practice that are showing this guy can play. So, you talk about targets. You talk about, they're not going to throw him the ball if they don't think he can make the play. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside isn't getting the targets. Well, what does that say? So you look at now and I know everybody's starting to spin this forward and say, well, what happens when these guys get healthy? And I would argue, and I said this in the grades here, that I think Fulgham's ability to make some plays might end up making Alshon Jeffrey tradable here when he can get back on the field, and maybe somebody will end up taking a flyer on him and you can get something for him. I think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to be the odd man out if they don't trade Jeffrey, because right now he's just not producing. And Greg Ward, to me, is a reliable guy in the slot that I think Wentz likes there. Now you add Fulgham into the mix. You're going to get, if you can get Jalen Reagor, Deshaun Jackson, and Alshon Jeffrey healthy at some point. This offense has a lot of potential if they can find a way to get there, but getting healthy is just so difficult. But I like what Fulgham's doing a lot. He's providing a lot of energy. And what's going to be interesting to see is now what he has done in the last 2 weeks. How will Baltimore game plan against him? Are they going to try to take him away because he's the only guy producing right now? Or are they going to continue to shut down Zach Ertz like other teams have done and say Fulgham can't do it 3 weeks in a row? We'll find out. But I like what kind of energy, and I like the way the guy's playing right now. He's definitely breathing life into that offense.
All right, Scott Grayson, check out the full list of grades at 97.3ESPN.com and see what the report card looks like for an Eagles loss. 38-29 in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. They go to 4-0. The Eagles fall to 1-3-1, half game behind Dallas for first place in the NFC East. It is a pretty bad NFC East, which lost Dak Prescott yesterday as well. So this one should be pretty interesting all the way down. And of course, you can hear Scott on Sunday morning in the locker room with Billy Schweim as they get you ready for the Eagles and the Ravens. And then Scott will be back here on Monday with another edition of Grayson's Grades for Eagles Baltimore right here on the Sports Bash. Scott, thanks, man.
All right, you got it, guys. Have a good Monday.
And don't forget to check out Scott. Actually, they usually do the Props and Lock show on Thursday nights, but there is no Thursday night game this week. So I don't know what they're going to be doing about that, but you can follow him on Twitter to find out.